Welcome to Lone Waste TV here at Garage Therapy in Essex with Maz.
Welcome back.
So we're doing something really different today. We're myth busting. So we've got 9 common questions or traits that some of you might adhere to when it comes to washing, prepping, maintaining, or just generally detailing your pride and joy. So I'm going to put them to you, Maz, and you're going to identify whether that is myth, absolute tripe, or whether actually there is a degree of truth in it. Oh, I just want to say thank you to some of our members from the Driven Not Hidden Collective for supplying these, by the way. It's much appreciated. Question 1, the absolute classic, Maz. Just use fairy liquid to clean your car.
Okay, well, it's not a myth because you can use any detergent to wash your car. Whether or not it's actually good for it is another question. So the detergents that go into your dish soap have got a lot of degreasing surfactants in there, and some of them contain sugar and slight abrasive elements to it, so you don't get the same lubricity when you're washing the car, and even though you might perceive that it feels fine, it's not giving that same encapsulation, that same lubricity and slickness to the surface. So you're then obviously inflicting potentially some swirling and some defects in the paint. I mean, people used to wash their cars for decades. You know, in the 80s when my dad used to make me wash his car, you know, fairy liquid in the bucket and sponge and away you go. And yes, it will clean the surface, but the surfactants in there aren't as modern and complex as surfactants we have in today's marketplace.
Okay. So it's feasible, but it's not viable. Question 2, just use quick detailer if you can't be bothered to do a full wash.
Myth. You can if you want to do that, but that's not necessarily going to clean the paint sufficiently in terms of it. A lot of quick detailers don't have the same detergents in there to actually clean the paint, and even if the car has a light film of dust on there, you may still inflict swirl marks in the paint. If you were to use a quick detailer in that scenario, you would have to really douse the car down with a lot of product, and that has in it downfalls as well, because in effect you're putting a lot of silicone-based additives on your paint, which then causes excessive build-up of silicone on your paint, and you may get lack of clarity after a while. There's a finite amount of clear coat on the paint. There's only so much you can polish a car, so you want to avoid putting damage in there and avoid polishing if you know, to maintain that paint depth effectively.
Awesome. So myth. Question 3, you should use a clay bar after every wash to get off contaminants.
No, so a clay bar is used to deep clean the clear coat. Think of a clay bar almost like 5,000 grit sandpaper. So you need to use a lubricity or a lube solution in there. You can make your own by using water and shampoo in a bottle to have some slip while you're rubbing the clay on the surface, and that will pick up contaminants. But if you have tar on the car, what will happen is it will pick up the tar, but you're then rubbing that tar back onto the paint, which causes scratches and marring and things of that nature. So for the different types of contaminants, for tar you want to use a tar and glue remover. For water staining you want to use a demineralizing agent.
So how often would you use a clay bar then?
So you typically would use a clay bar if your paint feels really rough, because that would suggest, or that means that there's a lot of ingrained dirt in your clear coat. So your car could use with a clay. And once you've clayed the car, you then need to polish it, because you're inevitably going to inflict damage into the paint.
Yeah. Okay, next question. You should always rinse before using snow foam.
Yeah, it's a very interesting topic. So the reason why you would rinse, if the car is caked in lots of dirt and mud, what you want to do is get that off the car before you make contact with it. Now there's obviously pre-washes that you apply onto the car. If you rinse the car and then you apply your pre-wash, what may happen is that water will stop the surfactant penetrating into the dirt and softening it, so then it won't wash away all of the dirt once you start rinsing the car down. So in some cases, not all cases, in some cases it's always good to apply the product on dry, assuming the panels are cool to the touch. If they're hot, then you should rinse the car down because it lowers the panel temperatures. So if the car is cool and there's dirt, apply it on there dry, it will penetrate into the dirt and then rinse. If the car is in a warm day like today, even though we're in the shade, it's still quite warm, the panel temperatures will be elevated. Yeah. You really want to rinse the car down to lower those temperatures. It then allows the foam to dwell for longer. Okay. So there's a balancing act. On our bottles, we will say, in some scenarios, it may be beneficial to apply the product onto a dry surface. Yeah, okay. Again, the surfactant is there to penetrate into the dirt, soften it, and then you can then rinse that away.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, neither myth or truth really. It's dependent on the situation.
Correct.
Next question: ceramic coating will protect the car from stone chips.
No, it won't. However, the reason why you put protection on your car is, well, there's many reasons. Chemical resistance, you add gloss to the paint or uplift the paint, and you decrease surface tension, so you increase deflection. So if the car's slicker, there's less likely that the car will have dirt bind to it as easy, and if a projectile hits the car, if it's slicker, it's more likely to deflect. So it may stop it, it may reduce it, but there's no concrete science that will suggest that.
Ultimately, it's not a shield like PPF is, but like I said, even that is penetrable, but that is an actual definitive
and you get
shield.
stones that penetrate through PPF, right? So if it's the right type of stone, it's going to go through no matter what.
PPF by concept will last forever.
No, it's not designed to last forever. You get various different PPF lifespans. Some manufacturers will say you've got 10-year warranty. That doesn't mean that it's going to last 10 years, as much as they say it will last 10 years. If you have PPF on your car and you garage it all its life, then yeah, it will probably last 10 years. But what will happen over time is the edges will start lifting, right here. Some of it will start yellowing over time, despite what they tell you. You'll get stone chips and damage, and that PPF will need to be taken off. So it's not a lifetime product. It's there as a sacrificial layer to protect the car. The longer you keep PPF on the car, the harder it is to take it off. Then that elevates the danger of pulling paint. Now, typically with OEM from factory paint, the danger is much less. If you've had panels repainted, or it's done by a body shop, or the car's coloured, you may have issues later. That doesn't, I'm not saying guaranteed, there's ways of taking off PPF. So typically they'll heat the PPF up, they'll use steam. There's methods of taking the PPF off, so you're not, guaranteed to have an issue, but it's a consideration. And a lot of PPF installers are very nervous. I don't care what anyone says, whenever they're removing PPF, they're cautious.
So if you'd like to buy an Irish green headache, just comment in So, brilliant. We'll move on quickly from that one then. So, myth or truth, it's safe to wash the engine bay with a jet wash?
Yes. It depends on the engine, the vintage of the car. Most modern engines are almost waterproof, obviously not completely waterproof because you can't go underwater with them, but a lot of the connections, I've got seals around them and things like that, so you can pressure wash the engine from a safe distance. You don't want to go in there full blast and go right near sensitive components. You don't want to get loads of water on the alternator and things like that, or the airbox as an example, or the battery, so you need to cover certain things, but absolutely you can pressure wash an engine.
Awesome, yeah. Okay. I mean, thankfully on these, the battery's in the front, isn't it? So rattling through these, which is awesome. And that was our first truth, by the way, in the video, so that's good. When cleaning your car, you should always work from top to bottom.
No.
Okay, that surprises me.
It shouldn't surprise you, Lee, because you've been watching me clean your car. So clean wheels first. The reason why you clean wheels first is because you spray a lot of water around, you're cleaning off the dirtiest part of the car, and that gets thrown up in the air and it's going to eventually go on your paintwork.
Yeah.
And you also don't want to get the car wet when it's sunny, because if you get the car wet when it's sunny and you're not quick enough, what happens?
It dries very quickly and you get the spots and marks.
Correct, right? So you wash your wheels first. When you apply your pre-wash, i.e. snow foam, you don't want to rinse that from top to bottom, because you want to see where you've been as you're rinsing the snow foam off. So you work your way from the bottom and you work up the vehicle, and then you can make sure you're methodical in terms of where you've rinsed.
You can see where you've been.
Yeah. Whereas if you've washed the car with a normal shampoo, rinsing from top to bottom is fine.
Wow.
But you do wash from top to bottom. So washing as in mitt, shampoo, going from the top to bottom, because what you don't want to do is grab the dirt from the bottom and
bring it up.
Some detailers will snow foam the car, do their pre-washing, snow foam the car, and while the snow foam is dwelling on the car, then they'll start washing the wheels. So they're saving time again.
A beginning, a middle, and
So there's no, you could say to me, Maz, that means there's no right or wrong answer here. As long as you know what your process is and you can maintain your quality of work and things don't dry out prematurely and cause other issues, then do what works for you.
Okay. So no.
However, the easiest process is wash your wheels first, and that gives you more time to do other things.
Yeah, that one sounds good to me. So yeah, not really truth or myth, it's you do you. Last question, you can use newspaper to clean glass effectively.
When I was a young boy, my parents used to have a restaurant, and for me to get pocket money, I used to use newspaper and window cleaner and do the glass. Newspapers they're probably more sustainable nowadays, so the ink will more likely run and things like that. So the answer is probably no. And there's no reason to, right? We all have these wonderful invention called microfiber, which didn't exist back in the day. You know, you had terry cloths and cotton and things like that. So there's no excuse to use newspaper.
My dad genuinely uses Cif/Jif when cleaning his van. Like, he swears by it.
If it's single stage paint and it's a work van, probably would work quite well.
Okay.
There's only so much you can do that though, because it's obviously abrasive, right? So there's only so much paint there, but typically single stage paint. So what I mean by single stage is you've got primer, colour coat, and on modern cars you've got the clear coat on top. Whereas single stage is you just got the colour coat. So when you polish, you get the colour transfer on the pad, right?
Yeah.
So using Jif on work vans that might be single stage paint, it might work.
That might work.
On modern clear coat paint, no.
They do it on this, right, okay. So I'll tell the old man to stay away from the car. We've got a lot of myths genuinely busted in there. We've got one that's dependent on the situation, and then we've got a you do you in there as well. So yes, we will definitely do more of these. If you've got any myths that you'd like either endorsed or busted, pop them in the comments below, and we'll do this again next time we visit in Garage Therapy HQ. Maz, the expert, thanks for your time.
Thank you.